All right, welcome back to My Mom's Basement. It is Robbie Fox, and I am here with Anthony and Travis from L.S. Dunes. What's going on, guys? How are you?
That camera?
That camera.
I'm just
that
looking
camera,
right at you,
that
Robbie.
We got 3 cameras.
I'm looking right at you.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's better.
These cameras right here. Yeah.
Cameras.
How are you guys? You like the city?
Yeah, it's cold, dude.
It's real cold. Yeah, that's
cold.
nasty. But
Yeah, I was kind of deceived by it. And Anthony's asked me a couple of times if I was warm enough, and I wore a sweater and a regular old
I showed up and he's just like in this sweater, and then he's got this cool looking jacket. It's like
I'm not warm
stylish
enough.
jacket on.
you had a cool looking jacket too
Yeah,
when you
his
came
jacket's
in.
nice.
I got
too.
16 layers on.
You
right?
came in with a big fuzzy
got a
jacket,
fuzzy
looking
jacket
like
with
you
the
guys kind of look
Patagonia
like
puffer
rock stars when
underneath.
you walk in.
Really?
I feel like when you walk into a place like Barstool, at least.
Well, it's worth being cold then.
The employees walk over and they're like, "Oh, those guys are
We
probably in a
deceived
band."
him.
That jacket is like it changed my life actually. That fuzzy jacket, because you walk anywhere with it and people are just like, what the fuck?
Exactly.
It's
It's that rock star aura. Yeah, you got it for sure. So this is a bit of a nerdy podcast. I have bands on all the time, but I also talk comics a lot. So I want to go back and get the origin story of L.S. Dunes. You guys were a pandemic group originally. That's how you formed, right?
Is that kind of it? The
Yeah,
it's like
but
a pandemic,
I guess-
like a pandemic baby. You know?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we came from.
Had
Like,
you guys
know,
all known each other for years before you formed a band?
Anthony and I have known each other well for many years.
Yeah.
Coheed and Circa have toured together a lot.
Yeah.
And we have a close bond through that. We never wrote music together before that, though. Like, worked on stuff, maybe played stuff just jamming around, but never, yeah.
It was like it's like the equivalent to a bunch of dads who are like, oh, we're gonna play cards. Let's get together and play cards every week. You know, like the pandemic happened, we all lost our jobs essentially. So we were like, all right, well, what do we do? Like, how do we keep our creative muscle going? You know, and Tucker really reached out to everybody, and I think collectively we're a group of friends who had every time we'd seen each other would be like, oh, we should jam.
Yeah, it's
you
that
know?
kind of thing.
So
Let's do something
yeah,
sometime.
obsession and
Yeah.
opportunity kind of met during the pandemic, and then
Definitely Tucker was the
ringleader.
ringleader. Like, we were
Of just and it started as let's get together and jam, let's play a few songs. Was it let's write or let's play a few covers?
I mean, it was flat out let's write from our end of it. I mean, it was started.
I wasn't even in the band. when
Yeah,
it started.
Anthony, like, so I'm gonna break it down.
Yeah.
Like, but quick.
Break it down.
So yeah, break it down for y'all. So Tucker had actually contacted me about doing something pre-pandemic, which was kind of cool, and I think I could just freely talk about it. But there was a name that got thrown around that I was like, I don't know if we've ever discussed this, but I think it was Tucker Rule and the Crybabies, and it was like doing like like covers and doing like, you know, and we had a meeting about maybe doing it and stuff. So fast forward a few months, shit hits the fan. We're stuck, and he kind of like just came out of the blue right when I especially needed. I think we all did, and was just like, I want to write and I want to like play music. Even we may not be able to play it out right now, but do you want to just throw some ideas around? And I was like, sure. And then he informed me that Tim Payne wanted to do it and that Frank wanted to do it. So we were like, nobody was going to be upset if it sucked. You know?
Yeah.
Like everybody was
shot
like,
for
let's
fun,
just try it. So I sent like a group of riffs that eventually became a song called Antibodies.
Yep.
And Frank sent a few different ideas, and a couple of those, I don't remember what songs became what on Past Lives, but everybody had ideas.
Mm-hmm.
By the time the week was over, we had 4 or 5 instrumental ideas. And we were like, who's going to sing on this? And we thought of Anthony right away. And so we wanted to kind of trick him. And this was Tucker's idea. Yeah. So Tucker, do you want to take it from here?
No, you keep going.
Okay,
I love
so
what you're
Tucker
doing. You're on a
sent-
rhythm right now.
Yeah. I'm going to bust this out too. So Tucker sent him, was it just 1 or 2 songs? Was 2 songs? Oh, 3. 3 songs. I know that one of the songs was the first one I talked about, Antibodies, and that was the first one that Anthony sent vocals to, and that was it. It was like, you know, even before he knew it, it was like he's singing for this band. And so basically he told him that it was a few of his neighbors that he?
No, he didn't even tell me anything. He was just like, "Hey, would you like? I'm making some songs with some friends. Like, would you want to sing on this? Here are the instrumentals." And I just assumed it was like his buddies from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Where he was like hanging with and jamming.
Yeah.
And
So you didn't know
no, I literally put the
joining a
music
supergroup,
on
yeah.
it that night. I put songs on it that night. It was during the pandemic where like we were like everything was like, you know. I think my other band was like covering songs once a month, and like everybody, I was doing Twitch streams, so I had my setup, and I was just working constantly. And so I was like, yeah, this is awesome. Like, it immediately evoked like inspiration in me. So I was like, boom, first best guess, which Tucker says all the time when he sends out demos.
Yeah.
Sent out my first best guess, and then he texted me at some point like, hey, can I talk to you? And then I got on the phone with him, and I can remember where I was and everything. And he kind of laid it all out for me. And I don't know if was everybody else on the call too.
We might have been. I mean, we all agreed that right away. I mean, I got super emotional when we got the Antibody specifically, and it had his voice on it. I sat with my wife, and I just really needed that at the time. You know, it's not that music wasn't happening. I mean, Coheed already had a record done. Everything was, but I had like nothing that I was really excited about to work on. You know what I mean? Like, it was like I just needed it really bad, and I needed something to make me feel inspired. And when he sent the vocals, it just was like, holy shit. So I think that all of us were like, we got to get on this right
like this
away.
could be a thing more than just
we already
we're
knew
messing
it
around
was.
with our friends. But
We already
like,
knew it was.
Yeah.
What it is, we didn't know. Like, but we were just like, we're going to continue writing together.
Yeah.
And if he'll have us, we're going to
Yeah.
continue writing with Anthony. And then he was all about it. And so I'd say 3 weeks later, we have like 6-7 songs already.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
And does that writing process, does that differ a lot from the writing processes that you're used to and in other
That
bands?
differed significantly from any
right?
writing process that I've ever been a part of. That was just from a distance throwing paint at the wall, like throwing different like scenes at each other, and you know, and Anthony having to like write these vocal melodies over all these random things, which kind of making those pieces fit the way that they did is incredible in itself.
And then
You know what I'm saying? Like,
going forward
all
with
of
the
us.
band, like, does that change a lot? Is it more getting in a room together? Is it? Do you
Yeah,
continue to
that's
just send
where
each
we are
other
now.
stuff? Yeah.
We have evolved as a band.
Yeah.
I'm talking too much.
No, you're not. You're doing great, man. Don't listen.
This is why
You're
you're here,
so
you know?
Okay,
I want to hear you guys talk.
I want Anthony to be able to.
No, you're
we,
right.
We basically got to a point where we had to get together, and you know, everybody's tested for COVID or whatever, and we got together in Frank's basement. And from the moment we were all in the room and we're working on song ideas we already had, we knew the magic was there in person.
Yeah.
To be creative like that.
Yeah.
And couldn't wait to do it that way. We already had past lives, though. We already had a lot of that done. So that's where we're at with Violet, is we finally got to be able to be together.
And is it when you're in a, sorry to cut you off, but
No, it's quite all right.
more of like a super group, right? As a fan, you hear that and it sounds like, oh, this is the Avengers coming together. Like, we've got so many people from so many awesome bands coming together and working together. Is it more ideas than you're used to? Like when you're in the songwriting process where everyone has their own ideas and influences and stuff that they want to add to the song?
Yeah, but in a welcomed way. It all fits.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I think we all have big musical personalities, and sometimes that doesn't work, but here it really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like from the very beginning, it started out as just like a group of friends making music together. Everybody sort of knowing that the other person is just bringing their A game all the time, and never questioning that, and using our past experiences and current experiences to try to navigate a place where everybody could feel really creatively like just like alive and heard, you know.
Do you feel creative pressure with each other or no?
No, that's the one thing
It
that we
comes
don't
from
feel.
nice.
It comes from inside.
Yeah.
Like I think all of us, like, we want to bring our best to the table, you know. And I think the way that everybody looks at their own instrument and their own, like, you know, respective, you know, occupational space in this craft, I think we all are kind of just like feel that pressure of wanting to do as good as the thing that he just did.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Who came up with the name LS Dunes?
There was a collective of all of us coming up with that. You know,
Yeah.
there were a lot
It
of
was a
names
spitball
thrown around.
session.
Yeah,
It was like a 3-month-long
it was a 3-month-long.
We had a bunch of
tech
names, too.
spitball.
You went through a
Because
bunch
there'd
of
be
names,
times
yeah.
we'd be like, this is the name of the band.
Yeah.
Past Lives was one of them.
Past Lives was a
Oh,
possible
wow.
name
So
of the
that's
band.
cool that you got to reuse it on the album title. Yeah, that's really cool. And what was that first show like? Riot Fest was the first show, right?
Dude, crazy. Craziest first show experience in my entire life.
Yeah. Because you had a
know
lot
what
of
to
buzz
expect.
going into it, too. Yeah.
But I would say that, like, because of the fact that, like, for a minute, it felt like you were walking the plank a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
But because everybody's just such a pro, like, everybody just showed up ready to go. Like, you know, we had only had 3 practices, and that's including the one in Frank's basement where we all just jammed for like a half an hour, and we didn't even have any songs. So, like, we were just like, all right, so let's just see if it works. Let's just see what happens. And everything just happened right, and we rose to the occasion. I feel like the idea of the band being more about our live performance than what the record represents kind of was born in that day.
Yeah. And then did that affect the way you wrote on Violet as well, writing with the live performance in mind?
that
For sure.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, right.
100%.
it all plays its part, you know, because the art, you know, imitates the life and blah, blah, blah.
Violet, by the way, out on the 31st. I got a advance copy of it. I think it's awesome. And I wanted to ask, the first and last song on the album, were they written as the first and last song? Because the intro, it sounds almost cinematic, and the acapella in the beginning, and then the way the song comes in, and then the way the album closes feels like you're closing the book on it a little bit.
Yeah, meant to do that. No.
No, 100%. I mean, I know that from the gate, Frank
Yeah, he had it.
was like, okay, he's always like the way he works sometimes, and I'm not trying to give anything away, but he's very like, okay, what's the intro, what's the outro?
Yeah, I love that as well.
Me
like I
too.
love when an album, it sounds like, it's a collective work, and I feel like this really hit
Going
that.
through that with Past Lives was a cool experience, and so like kind of figuring out those little, once you figure that out, everything kind of just makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, sequencing this record became really easy for me, because at some point hearing them, I didn't have to say anything or do anything, because somebody else was already voicing something that I was like would have said. So it was at some point, once the Like Magic and is it Forgiveness or Violence?
Yeah, Forgiveness.
Once those were in place as the opener and closer, I literally was just like, yeah, as long as the flow feels good to everybody else, like whatever. We had some songs that didn't make this record either, that just from the writing session, like I didn't care.
Yeah.
I was just so happy with everything. Like when it came time to be like, all right, what's the singles? What are the singles going to be like? What are we going to put out first? I was like, there isn't a song on here you make me disappointed to hear. Like,
Yeah.
I had an opinion, but it was like, all right, whatever. Like it's so good to me. Like
That's awesome.
I'm delivered from having to worry.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, there were songs that didn't make the record too, and when it came down to having to pick, like, you're sad to see certain songs go, but you know that they're going to come back later.
Yeah.
And
It's so cool to be in a band that's down to be like, let's open the record with like 30 seconds of like
Yeah.
Just singing, yeah.
Like
I absolutely
that,
love it.
There's so much of the decision making, from like getting backdrops made to getting anything. It's just like you're not afraid to like kind of go into the unknown, try something weird,
Yeah.
see how it feels.
I love the artwork on the album too. The painting, it's really cool. Where did that come from?
That actually, the artist is the same artist that did Past Lives,
Cool.
Gordon Douglas Ball,
Yeah.
and it's Tucker's best friend.
He's the greatest.
He's an incredible
such
It's
a
artist,
really cool.
incredible
Like
person.
that album cover is just a vibe immediately.
It's such
We went through a lot of different art until we came back to, it's like he kind of just saved our ass with coming through with what we needed in the first place.
Yeah.
But that's what we needed to do to get back home.
went on like such a journey around what could this be, like what could we do, and tried all these different things, which I think is like it chews you into
it's
the
good.
best shape you can be.
Definitely.
And we kind of got back to the square one where we were like, what if we just let Gordy listen to the record and give us some input? And then that's what happened. He listened to it, sent some stuff, and this
Yeah.
to me it looks, it's like almost like a tarot card feeling when you
Definitely.
see
I
it,
can
because
see that.
people
I read
put
that.
their different things into it, where like somebody's like, man, it's crazy that they're on like, you're like that entity is like in this like the storm.
Yeah.
And that they're like, and like all the stuff I think you see in it sort of represents whatever you're kind of go looking for.
And when and where did you guys actually record this album?
We did it in Conshohocken.
Yeah. It's
At
Studio
Will
4.
Yip Studio 4, Will Yip Studio. Now, Will did do Past Lives as well, but this is definitely a good subject to get on, is that for me, personally, I can say how much of a difference it made for me to be able to be in his studio and working with him. Anthony's worked with him a lot. He'll go on, talk about that. But he was just such an incredible person to work with. A fantastic ear, fantastic cheerleader, great songwriter. I mean, I can't say enough about working with Will.
And this year you recorded, or 2024 it was recorded?
It was last year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was this time
It was
last
like
year.
2023 into 2024 we were in the studio.
Yeah.
And we had just gotten off this tour. We were supporting Pierce the Veil.
Yep.
And it was like a freeing tour for us because, we had just done a lot of headlining stuff. So to go up with a band that was like massive and like had this cool fan base, and to go kind of have space and time to go just kind of do our thing without having to worry about anything,
Yeah.
There's less pressure when you're, playing main support on a tour. It kind of got us all into this good shape. We got off the tour and then started the writing process for the record. And I really think that us being in the studio with Will and like having a lot of the songs from the ground up, he was there just like overseeing, just to help us communicate within each other and to help us see through the vision of each song.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to, on Past Lives, we didn't really get that much time with him. We did it with him, but it was like I was in there doing vocals with him, finalizing vocals, but a lot of stuff got hodgepodged. And a lot of songs were kind of like written and then brought in there, and we were like kind of married to a structure, whereas like we had a lot of ideas where we were able to experiment and be like, what would happen if we did the structure like this? Yeah. What would happen if we did it like that? Changing the keys, and having somebody like Will, I mean, he's just like, he's everything I've ever looked for in a creative partner and like a producer, as far as like he can invoke just like moments of pure inspiration from you, and he can also really fuel your fire when you need to just hone in on something that's just in you. Knows how to do that. Pretty cool guy.
Are there any like specific sonic influences on this album that you could think of that you were talking with Will in the studio about?
I'm sure that numerous different bands, artists, whatever, would get thrown around to be like, like this, but there's nothing for me that.
Yeah. Because like L.S. Dunes is a very unique sound to me. I feel like what makes L.S. Dunes.
Is that your wrist?
No, it's the mic.
Jostled and static. There's probably static in the
Shout
Jocelyn
out Nick
frame.
Hamilton, like a pit crew, with the second mic cord.
That's a pretty quick. That's a pretty
that
quick
was
hit
quick.
right there.
There we go. Doesn't sound like
We're back. Look at that. An absolute
We never
pit
even
crew.
left. We never
It's
even
like
left.
NASCAR. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we were.
I can't remember what you were saying though.
Influences like
Yes,
where's
Sonic.
Oh,
You
yeah.
said you actually had a Sonic influence you could think of. Yeah.
So when I remember going into recording this and wanting the vocals to feel raw, and just wanting to make sure that the vocal takes evoked like feelings that I get when I would listen to an album like Ugly Organ by Cursive. You can just, when the take is good, it has more of an effect than if it's just like a good melody that's tuned right.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to make sure that in the vocal takes on this record that you could hear what the emotion behind each thing was. And there were, that Smile record that came out, like listening when the way Tom York sings in the studio, and the way he just seems like the way his melodies are so haunting, and he knows them when he's singing them, he's feeling them, and that can be hard when you're just learning a song, you're just writing it in the studio. And I definitely had a feeling. I'm not sure if I could say like there could be 100 different records that have this feeling. You know, you listen to Leonard Cohen and you hear the voice and the way that makes your chest feel. Like I wanted to make sure that those feelings were there, and go into somebody like Will and say, hey, you know, whatever we need to do so that you can feel that this is like me really singing and this isn't like a ton of effects, you know, that don't take away from the melody, and having him be able to do that and add spice and still give you intimate character. You know, he's like perfect at that.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask, because L.S. Dunes is such a unique sound to me. What makes L.S. Dunes to you? When you're writing a riff, do you like have in your mind, all right, this riff sounds like an L.S. Dunes riff, when you're just, you know, fiddling around on a guitar?
It's going to be what the other four people do with it.
Yeah.
That's just how you know, like, I've been part of a lot of things where people go, you know, especially when somebody shuts something down just from hearing one riff, or, you know, whether it be like a verse idea and a chorus from a guitar or something like that. And then they go, you know, this is just so much like, all right, blame, you know, whatever artist or whatever that ruins that idea for you.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like, no, but what you do with it, what he does with it, is going to make it completely different.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying you can save every melody, and you can, you know, there are things that you let go, you know? You know, people say you can't polish a turd, whatever. Like,
yeah.
you know? But I like chasing everything. We like chasing everything to make sure. That's the one thing in this band that, like, I've never experienced, how I'm dealing with 400 other individuals who are willing to chase it.
Yeah.
Even if it ends up that you don't have anything in the end, we chased it to a certain place to understand what potential it had. Because nothing is going to come of just one thing alone and deciding that that's just not the right thing to go for, right?
Mm-hmm.
That sounded confusing. If you have a melody and an idea and somebody shuts it down without at least trying it, to me it's a waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You saying that just makes me think I'm a big Beatles fan. The Get Back documentary. There's a moment in that documentary where George Harrison brings My Sweet Lord to John Lennon and Paul McCartney, and immediately plays it to him, and they laugh at him, and they're like, you got to remember what band you're in, buddy. And it's like, oh my God, My Sweet Lord could have been a Beatles song, and they shut it down because they heard 30 seconds of it and they didn't like it. They're two of the greatest of all time, obviously, but they shut that down. And that, like, you saying that just brought that to mind, because it's crazy.
Yeah.
Imagine all of imagine
yeah. Yep, another song that maybe they could have had.
What makes an idea an LS Dunes idea is that it's in our inbox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we all are kind of have been making like rock and punk rock and psychedelic punk, whatever you want to call it. Like, we've all been doing this for so long. I think when we started, it was like, okay, we all brought the ingredients we were most familiar with. Yeah. And then you're sort of learning and you kind of hear it, the learning on Violet, like what we can, like how
sounds
we
like
can,
an evolution.
Yeah, like
sure.
How can we spread out? Like what more can we do, you know? And when you have a bunch of people that kind of allow this infinite freedom with each other, that comes with this like respect of like, hey, I will follow your vision to the depths of whatever, you know, because it only makes things stronger.
Yeah.
And knowing that is like what makes this such a fun unit, you know. I think that a band can be together for a really long time and lose that essence. And we have this like new thing. It's still new, you know. Like we can be old farts and still do this new thing that relies on nothing to exist. You know, that's just this like self, pumping engine.
Totally. Then I just got a couple tour questions for two guys that have been...
You never know I was a writer just by listening to me talk. A self-pumping. You never know I would. I'm sorry.
Couple tour questions. One I love to ask all the musicians and bands I have on my show. Who do you think the funniest musician or band that you guys have ever encountered and dealt with has been? Who makes you laugh the hardest?
You know, I really enjoyed watching was I got to be on tour with because I'm in another band called Coheed and Cambria, and I was with Coheed with Puddle's Pity Party. Did you ever
Oh
watch
yeah, the
Coheed?
clown, right?
Pity
clown,
party.
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a fun show.
Did he open up for Coheed?
Yeah.
Oh
well,
my God.
It was Primus and Coheed. So Coheed did a
Gotcha.
tour. We were main support for Primus. So.
What an interesting show that must have been. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was definitely all over the place. But Puddles, I did not know what to expect, and I watched some of the stuff, and it's intriguing how he takes like elements of it's a clown.
Yep.
And there's like definitely plays on magic and stuff like that, but it's more him performing and doing parodies of these songs. You haven't seen any of his stuff? There's like Black Sabbath songs.
Man,
He's been doing it for a long time too.
You gotta check it out.
I'm like in my shell all the time. I don't get out. I don't say nothing.
But that's okay. I am a lot of the time.
You
too.
can
the
shame
only
me for
way
it.
I would have.
You can shame me for it. It's
no.
okay.
The only reason I would see it is because I'm around it.
'Cause you're around stuff.
So, yeah, I felt lucky to be able to see that in person, and I grew up with Weird Al, so
Love
Weird Al's
Weird Al.
one of my favorite.
He's
I got
playing
to see
MSG
that.
this year, and I want to go for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Puddles is opening for Weird Al this summer.
Oh, is
I
he?
feel like I'm doing a
You're
promotion
doing.
for
You
Puddles.
are. Yeah, you were sent here from Puddles.
he's
Yeah.
opening for Weird Al this summer.
Okay.
And I'm definitely taking my kids.
If he's like a funny
we
guy,
should all bring our
if he's
children.
like a funny guy, I feel like opening for Weird Al is like it's like the Grand Ole Opry.
Oh, it has to be.
It's such an amazing tour.
Weird Al is definitely the goat of parody songs. I think everyone would agree with that. And then, what's the most Spinal Tap moment you guys have faced on tour?
Funny you say Spinal Tap. I actually my father took me because I got my associate's degree. He took me. My gift was going to see Spinal Tap.
Really?
And they opened up as a mighty wind. You know what? Puddles, I love you, but that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. They opened up as a mighty wind, and it was before the movie came out.
Really?
Yeah.
And the guy comes out like on stage, and it's supposed to be the promoter. He's like, "You guys got to stop."
Oh
Not
my
working out.
God.
Kicks him off the stage, like it's them all dressed in like the folk.
cool.
Yeah,
Holy
and then
shit.
Spinal Tap came out.
Where? Do you remember where you saw him?
I think it was Hammerstein.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, real close to the office right here.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I think it was Hammerstein Ballroom, and they did Christmas with Satan, and a bunch of elves came out giving everybody. It was pretty. It was hilarious.
That's amazing. Have
was
you
good.
ever had a Spinal Tap moment on tour?
Of course. I think we all have,
Oh
right?
yeah, for sure.
You know?
There's been like too many times where you get lost in the venue.
Oh, yeah.
And like it's like a thing where like because it happens in the movie, but like I don't know, like for someone like me, like I don't know, it's like you're like yeah funny, but like you're in the basement of the
In the
venue,
tunnels
your
of an
phone doesn't
arena.
work, like I forget my pass, I'm like getting
Just
kicked
had
out.
one for us. I mean, we were together with we were at Rise Against, and we were at a House of Blues, and it was a fucking maze. Do you remember the place where the buses were below it, and you have to take an elevator up, and Haley would have to keep coming and getting us?
Oh my God, yeah.
But I a couple times was like, no, I got this, and I would walk up, and I walked into the crowd when I came up the first time alone,
Ah,
and
shit.
then I went into a different area.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is like impossible to get around.
When
Yeah.
Dunes was in England the first time, we were in Manchester, and there was like a big show in the big room, but I didn't know what was going on. I just woke up in the morning and like went into the venue, and there's this huge catering spread, and it was all this crazy shit, and there was like, oh my God, there was like veggie sausage and all these crazy things, and I'm just making this huge trait. And I went in, and I went into the dressing room, and I like was eating my sausage, and I put down, I was like using the bathroom, and I left. And I guess like there was some other show, and it was all their stuff, and nobody said anything to me. But apparently, like I just didn't know. I wasn't paying attention. I was just floating around. But like we got in all this, like I got in trouble that day, and like they locked down the side of the building.
Yeah.
So nobody could get in
Put it
through
on
that side of the
lockdown.
building. So everybody from our camp had to go all the way around and do all this shit. And I was like, my bad. I'm sorry. I didn't
Ate
know.
someone else's rider. Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah.
We could sit here for a long
Yeah.
go
I'm
through those
sure.
kind of things.
Because
I
I've
mean,
toured the world multiple
production
times
wise,
over.
Luckily, with L.S. Dunes, we're
You'd
relying
be
on-
surprised at things we can't do on our own as grown-up musicians in our
Yeah.
40s. Like, still now, even booking a flight, I'm like, what the fuck? What's the zip code of my business address? Shit. Like, I don't know how to look for things in my email. I couldn't even get in the building because there's a
Tour
QR
life.
code. It's not just tour life. It's just like regular life is tough for anybody. It's like full-time musician. Yeah, it's like I think tour life is a good way to like, oh yeah, but we're just
You could excuse it with
full-time
tour life,
musician
yeah.
just
I tried to
means
give
you're
you an out.
really good at this one thing, but then you just can't fucking function doing anything.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming in today. The album is out January 31st. It's really kick-ass.
Thanks,
Obviously,
man.
thoughts with Frank and everyone dealing with wildfire stuff right now. It's horrible,
Yeah.
but
He's
appreciate
safe in
you
New
guys.
Jersey now.
Yeah, he's
Oh, good.
He came back.
Good,
and
I'm glad.
He's safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really crazy out there. I hope that there's some relief soon.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, L.S. Dunes, thank you. The record's out January 31st.